were monitored power outages in 125 cities and municipalities in Region 1, Mimaropa, Region 5, and Region 8. Initially reported also were flooding in 4 cities and municipalities in Region 5, but also last night we report there was an official report of flooding in Batangas City. And the effect of strong winds, we can expect damages to agriculture, especially in Catanduanes and Albay, as well as damages to residential property. But all these are still being assessed as of this time by the local government units and concerned regional government agencies. On our preparedness and immediate response measures, in preparation for the landfall of Super Typhoon Rolly, we were able to end, after its landfall, a total of 41 emergency alert and warning messages were sent through the telcos Globe and Smart. And these are on rainfall warning, storm surge warning, typhoon warning, and gale warning. These are the kind of messages that were sent to all subscribers in areas that we see that are going to be affected by those kind of hazards as shown in the slide, such as rainfall, storm surge, and gale storm. We also conducted a series of pre-disasterist assessment meetings. These were presented yesterday already. The local government units, through the activation of Operations Listo of DILG, carried out preemptive evacuations, and we issued typhoon warnings, advisories, and other directives, and coordinated with concerned agencies to follow up on their preparedness measures, and set up in the operation center of NDRRMC here a combination of physical and virtual emergency operation center. We have activated the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council response clusters. The representatives of the various agencies composing these are here inside these premises, coordinating with their respective offices in the central office, regional offices, and local government units. These are the response operations by clusters, the search, rescue, and retrieval teams deployment, the Tactical Operations Group 4 of Philippine Air Force based in Lucena City deployed some personnel in Lopez, Quezon, while the 710 Special Operations Wing of the Philippine Air Force likewise deployed. Teams were deployed in Capas, Tarlac, and in Batangas. The Air Education and Training Doctrine Development Center of the Philippine Air Force Base in Lipa City also assisted in responding to the flooding in Batangas City. And the DOH prepositioned supplies and logistics in the amount of 31 million, and likewise transferred COVID patients from the mega treatment facilities to hospital wards and hotels, 324 all in all. We are also preparing for the transportation of relief goods from the various warehouses in Luzon and Visayas for possible augmentation of resources in affected regions. And we have scheduled a flight of C-295 aircraft of the Philippine Air Force tomorrow, and November 3 and November 4 to deliver relief goods to Catanduanes and Legazpi City. A total of 5,404 schools of DepEd were used as evacuation centers in Region 1, 2, 3, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Region 5, 8, and NCR. So the DSWD as lead of the management of evacuation centers at the national level, supporting the management of evacuation centers of the local government units, or what we call the camp coordination and camp management cluster, issued guidelines on the management of and delivery of relief goods to the evacuation centers. And in fact, Secretary Bautista was not able to join us yesterday. He was in region in Calabarzon, seeing to it that their people are acting on the immediate concerns of the local government units. And the emergency telecommunications cluster, being led by DICT, is preparing for the deployment of these assets, satellite and satellite communication system and radio communication systems. These are the assets that are ready and available for deployment for use in our immediate disaster response and delivery of logistics. 607 transportation assets all in all. And for immediate action also, next slide. Today, we are deploying a team of OCD emergency telecommunications team to Catanduanes using a Philippine Coast Guard BN Islander aircraft. They are already in the airport, and they will be bringing a VSAT equipment that will establish satellite voice and data communication with Catanduanes. I would also like to report that the OCD Region 5 and 9th Infantry Division deployed a team to Catanduanes today using a Philippine Air Force helicopter that was led by Brigadier General Adonis Bahaw of the Assistant Division Commander of 9th Infantry Division, and Mr. Jesar Adornado of the Division Chief of OCD Region 5. They are already in Catanduanes, and is trying to establish communications with us through satellite phones. And the initial delivery of relief goods to to Bicol is as shown. It will be today and tomorrow. We will also be deploying an augmentation of rapid damage and needs assessment team from the NDRMC in Catanduanes. This is a picture of the pre-departure of our team in Bilamoro Air Base, bringing this the equipment as shown. So that ends my briefing. Thank you for this opportunity again. Good morning.
Maraming salamat, Yusek Halad. We are joined also today by PNP Chief Police General Camilo Cascolan, and of course our Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, Lieutenant General Gilbert Gapay. Sir, maraming salamat po sa pagdalo ninyo. Narito naman po ngayon ang ating Department of Interior and Local Government Secretary Anyo. Sir, kamusta na po ang mga calamity response ng ating LGUs, ng ating kapulisan at ating mga bumbero?
Magandang umaga sa ating lahat. Una-una ay gusto natin i-commend ang mga LGUs sa kanilang magandang preparasyon na ginawa bago dumating ang bagyo through sa ating operation list of protocols. Siguro kung hindi nakapaghanda ng gusto, lalo na sa forced evacuation, ay baka mas maraming casualties. No? Sa ngayon ay 10 ang ating casualties. Ang isa ay galing sa Catanduanes. At dahil sa paghanda ay na-minimize natin at mayroong 3 pang missing, ang ating target talaga dapat ay 0 casualty. Nakaugnay natin yung ibang mga local chief executives ng mga hard-hit areas katulad ni Governor Al Francis Pichara at Governor Pres B. Velasco. At sa ngayon ay busy sila sa pag-oversee sa mga post-disaster actions, particularly on recovery and rehabilitation. At ang ating problema sa ngayon ay wala pa tayong contact sa Catanduanes, pero mayroon na tayong mga pumuntang personnel doon galing sa 9th Infantry Division, sa Philippine Coast Guard, kasama yung iba't ibang ahensya natin. Ang ating mga local chief executives ay nasa kanilang mga areas, na account natin sila lahat, at sila ang nagsusupervise ng mga damages. At we are now also taking part on the damage assessment with relevant government agencies to ensure that appropriate response could be given by the national government to hardest hit LGUs. At masasabi natin na katulad ng ating pinag-utos kasama ang DOH, ay inobserve pa rin nila ang health safety protocols, ang minimum health standards kahit sa gitna ng ating bagyo. Ang ating Philippine National Police sa pamumuno ni General Cascolan ay nag-deploy ng 2,959 search and rescue personnel, at meron pang nakastambay na 15,992 search and rescue personnel sa lahat ng areas na nangangailangan. At ang ating Bureau of Fire Protection naman sa pamumuno ni Fire Director Imbang ay mayroong nakatalagang 1,557 BAP assets, no, lalo ng mga fire trucks at 80 ambulances. So sa ngayon ay patuloy tayong makikipag-ugnayan para siguraduhin natin na yung mga missing ay makita natin, and at the same time makatulong tayo sa pag-recover at pag-rehabilitate. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat.
Salamat, Secretary Anyo. Susunod naman po, siyempre po, 100,000 po lumikas sa kanilang mga tahanan patungo sa mga evacuation centers, at malakas ang ulan, malamig, maraming nagkasakit. Secretary Duque, kamusta po ang ating tulong na binigay pagdating po sa kalusugan ng ating mga kababayan?
Maraming salamat, Secretary Roque, at magandang umaga po sa aking mga kasamang miyembro ng kabinete at sa ating po mga kababayan. Isa pong magandang umaga sa ngalan po ng Department of Health. Ang mga issues and concerns na ibig ko pong ibahagi sa ating po mga kababayan ay una-una dahil sa pinsala ng bagyo ay unstable ang ating communication lines, power and water supply, lalo-lalo na po sa Region 5. Ang ating mga health personnel sa Region 5 ay nahihirapan rin makareport for duty dahil po sa dinanas na heavy flooding, flash floods at lahar flows. No? May mga potential na cold chain management na problema para sa ating mga bakuna, ang COVID-19 test kits at specimens kung magtatagal ang pagbalik ng kuryente. Kaya ako nananawagan sa Department of Energy na sana po bigyan prioridad ang pagbabalik kaagaran ng electrical supply sa mga apektadong lugar, lalo na't may parating na naman isa pang bagyong Typhoon Shoni. At gamitin ko po ang pagkakataong ito na bigyan din ang mga paalala at mga karagdagan announcements. At gaya po ng sinabi ni Secretary Ed Anyo ng DILG, kailangan po talaga sundin natin ang minimum health standards, ang paghuhugas ng kamay sa tamang pamamaraan, ang paggamit ng face mask sa lahat ng oras, ang pagpapanatili ng social distancing, huwag iiksi sa isang metrong distansya sa pagitan ng sarili at ibang tao, lalo na po sa loob ng mga evacuation centers, hanggat isang pamilya lamang sa kada isang classroom o isang tent ang laman nito. At panatiliin well-ventilated o maayos ang sirkulasyon ng hangin. At iwasan hawakan ang mata, ilong, bibig, agad na kumonsulta sa doktor kung magkaroon ng sintomas gaya ng ubo, pananakit na lalamunan, hirap sa paghinga at pagkahilo. At para sa mga LGUs, akin pong binibigyan din at uulitin ang kahalagahan na magtalaga ng safety officers sa mga evacuation centers. Magsagawa po ng symptom screening, clinical and exposure assessment of evacuees para agaran matukoy at ma-isolate ang mga suspect and probable cases. Bigyan ng hiwalay na silid ang mga high-risk individuals tulad ng mga may edad 60 years pataas, may mga karamdaman, buntis at mga bata. I-isolate ang mga sintomas sa treatment, temporary treatment and monitoring facilities o sa hiwalay na silid o evacuation center. At huwag nang lumabas at maglakad sa baha, lalo na ang mga may sugat sa paa. Kung hindi maiwasan, magsuot ng protective gear o mga bota. At sa mga lumusong sa baha, magtungo sa ating mga health centers upang mabigyan ng post-exposure antibiotic or prophylaxis kung kinakailangan para makaiwas po sa leptospirosis. Siguraduhin malinis ang inuming tubig at ang ating mga nakahandang pagkain, pakuluan ang anumang tubig ng 3 minuto, hugasan ng mabuti ang ating mga sahog at lutuing mabuti ang ating pagkain. At binibigyan din ko, paghuli na lang po, ay yung advisory number 3 na inilabas po namin ng Department of Health para po sa mga CHD at mga iba pang mga health officials. Nais po namin linawin na hindi kinakailangan sumailalim sa testing ang ating mga responders as long as sila ay asymptomatic at walang history of exposure to a confirmed or probable case as certified by a physician. So hindi kinakailangan sumailalim sa testing para sa ating mga nagre-responde. Mariin namin din pinapaalalahanan ang lahat na patuloy na sumunod sa minimum public health standards even in our disaster response efforts. Maraming salamat po, Spokesperson Secretary Roque.
Salamat, Secretary Duque. Marami pong mga tulay at kalyang nasira dahil sa Bagyong Rolly. Kasama po natin ngayon si Secretary Mark Villar. Sir, ano-ano po itong mga nasirang mga tulay at kalsada at ano na po ang status ng pag-repair natin? The floor is yours, Secretary Villar.
Maraming salamat po at magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. At this point, there are 18 road sections closed due to traffic dahil sa Typhoon Rolly. 2 po sa Cordillera Administrative Region, 2 po sa Region 3, 1 po sa Region 4, at 12 po sa Region 5. This is due to series of slides, fallen trees, electrical posts, and flooding. Bago po dumating yung bagyo, nakapag-deploy po kami ng mga assets para sa road clearing sa mga regions na apektado. Ang na-deploy po is 777 pieces of heavy equipment and vehicles, 518 tools and light equipment, at nakapag-deploy kami ng 4,931 personnel bago po dumating yung bagyo. At sa ngayon po, sa CAR, ang road na hindi pa nasarado pa is Apayao-Ilocos Norte Road, which is not possible due to landslide. Yung Claveria-Calanasan-Cabugao Road, not possible due to soil collapse. Pero ang balita sa akin parang halos na-clear na. Sa Region 3, dahil sa flooding, sarado po yung Santo Tomas-Minalin-Macabebe Road. At pati yung Nueva Ecija-Aurora Road, not possible due to flash floods and mudslide. Sa Region 4A po, yung Katanawan-Buena Vista Road, not possible due to fallen trees, and of course, clearing operations are ongoing. Sa Region 5, the Tabaco-Tiwi-Camsur Boundary Road is not possible due to flooding. Tabaco Wharf Road 1 and 2, due to fallen utility post. Sa Albay po, sa Dang Maharlika, may section sa Pulangi at Balangibang, not possible due to fallen utility post. Sa Camarines Sur po, sa may area along Dang Maharlika na not possible due to fallen trees and utility posts. Pati yung Naga City, Carolina Road, also dahil po sa utility posts. At sa Sibobo, Cagsao, Kabanbanan Road, also dahil sa utility posts, hindi possible. Pati yung Milaor, Minalabak, Pili Road due to fallen utility posts. Yung Lagonoy, Caramoan Road due to collapsed road section. Yung Goa, Tinambak Road dahil sa fallen trees and electric posts. And the San Rafael, Mampirao Road also due to fallen trees and electric posts. So, and finally, the other three is the Dang Maharlika Nabua Poblacion section due to flooding and fallen utility posts. The Iriga City Nabua Road, Iriga City proper, not passable due to flooding and utility posts. At sa Sorsogon po, yung Donsol Banuang Gurang Road, not passable due to flooding and fallen utility posts. Sa ngayon po, ongoing po yung ang clearing operations, walang tigil po ang clearing operations ng DPWH. And we're continuing, we have teams on the ground to assess also damages to government infrastructures. So yun pong update. Maraming salamat po.
Salamat, Secretary Villar. Marami rin pong mga lugar ngayon sa Kabikulan na walang ilaw, walang kuryente. Kasama po natin si Secretary Alfonso Cusi para magbigay ng update po kung sa ano itong mga lugar na walang power at kailan natin aasahan mabalik po ang power sa mga lugar na ito. Secretary Cusi, the floor is yours.
Magandang umaga po, Mr. Chairman, Secretary Hari at mga kasama ko po rito ngayon sa pagpupulong na ito. Noon pong nakaraang linggo sa pagpiprepare nga po natin dahil sa darating na kalamidad at sa pagtugon na rin po sa kautusan ng ating Pangulo na maghanda sa parating na rally, ang DOE po, nagkaroon po kami ng coordination meeting with all the industry players. Composed po ng generation companies, transmission companies, cooperatives, oil players, NPC, NEA, at pinag-usapan na nga po namin kung paano natin naharapin itong parating na rally. At kinuhan po namin ang sinabi nga pong worst scenario case na po. At nakahanda po lahat ang pagtugon sa bagyong ito. So, ang nangyari po, sa ngayon, na po, nagkaroon po ng walang mga kuryente sa Bicol at dito rin po sa NCR. As I speak, as of 6 o'clock this morning, the mga 8,500 households ang wala pong kuryente at ito po ina-addressa na ngayon ng Meralco. And as I speak also, ang NGC po, GCP, Transco, NEA, and all other industry players are doing everything to restore and put the power back in the affected areas. For more details, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, we have prepared a presentation which I'd like to share to you and to the public.
Yes.
Alex.
Good morning, everyone. I am Undersecretary Alexander Lopez, and on behalf of the Energy Secretary Alfonso G. Cusi, I will be presenting the effects of Super Typhoon Rolly to the energy sector. Shown before you is the scope of my presentation. I will be providing the latest update on the power situation of the affected areas, followed by the oil supply situation, and lastly, the actions that the department did immediately. Next chart, please. As mandated, the Department of Energy oversees all efforts and activities of the government relative to the energy services. Next chart. Task Force on Energy Resiliency, or TFER, was established by the Energy Secretary through a department circular in 2018 to oversee the implementation of the plans and programs of the energy sector on energy resiliency, as well as provides direction, guidance, and control during disaster emergency response situations. Next chart. Moving on to the power situation in the affected areas of Super Typhoon Rolly. Next chart, please. 6 power plants went on emergency shutdown as a contingency measure to avoid plant damage and sudden disconnection to the grid, while 3 others are out and undergoing restoration activities. affecting a total of 2,776 megawatts installed capacity in Luzon. Next chart. The National Power Corporation, in charge of the small power utilities group power plants in off-grid areas, reported that there's no established communication yet in SPAG areas or SPAG plants in Catanduanes, Camarines Norte, and Camarines Sur. The plants in Albay, Romblon, and Masbate areas are on standby or partially energized, except for San Pascual Diesel Power Plant, Malaking Ilog Diesel Power Plant, Gilutongan Diesel Power Plant, Power Barge 114, and Banton Diesel Power Plant. While plants in Marinduque and Quezon areas are on standby or partially, except for Boac Diesel Power Plant, Power Barge 120, and Yumalig Diesel Power Plant. Next chart. The National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, on the other hand, reported several damaged transmission lines that affected provinces of Quezon, Camarines Norte, Camarines Sur, Albay, and Sorsogon. Next chart. In terms of distribution utilities, the National Electrification Administration, or NEA, reported 45 electric cooperatives were affected in 8 regions, of which 24 are under normal operations, 10 have experienced partial power interruptions, and 11 experienced total power interruptions. Shown are the status of restoration of distribution facilities in the affected areas of Super Typhoon Rolly, in Calabar Zone, Bicol, and Eastern Visayas regions, with the concerned distribution utilities and the corresponding percentages of the households for restoration. As of late, the whole of Bicol region still has no electricity. A special feature and a laudable activity of the restoration and rehabilitation efforts of the electric cooperatives under NEA is the Task Force Kapatid. This slide shows the status of the task force. Other electric cooperatives extend assistance to the affected electric cooperatives to expedite and facilitate the restoration works. And further shown are the number of assisting electric cooperatives for deployment to the affected areas. Next chart, please. The personnel of the Task Force Kapatid of the electric cooperatives are ready to go and are on standby and awaiting clearance for deployment. There are issues or concerns, however, that we'd like to seek assistance from the NDRRMC. One, due to the COVID-19 pandemics, travel clearance of the team is needed. The task force will bring in or will have their own provisions, but they would need, however, a place to rest or to sleep in the area. Level of stocks are being verified in the area, and in order that the task force will have materials to use when they arrive. However, communication has yet to be established with Fiselco in Catanduanes since last night. In this regard, assistance is sought from NDRMC to contact Fiselco before the deployment of the teams for damage assessment, among others. For the status of oil supply, we are glad to report that there is sufficient supply of petroleum products based on the inventory requirement in affected regions in Luzon, and this is equivalent to a total of 22 days' worth of supplies. Allow me to mention some of the actions immediately done by the department. The DOE met with the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines, or NGCP, to discuss the details and the updates and the identification of strategies for immediate restoration. It was agreed upon that the DOE will arrange a meeting between the NGCP, together with the power generation companies in Regions 3, 4A, and the NCR, in order to ensure the reliability of the grid soonest. And weather permitting, the NGC personnel on the ground will conduct a more detailed assessment whose aim is to connect the Tayabas-Naga lines to serve the customers of Casureco 1, 2, 3, and 4 in Kamsur, the Gumaca-Labo lines to serve the customers of Canureco in Cam Norte, as well as the areas served by Aleco in Albay, Sureco 1 and 2 in Sorsogon. The Task Force Kapatid of NEA is ready to be mobilized. The electric cooperatives in Regions 1, 2, 3, and 8 are ready to deploy and assist the southern Luzon areas gravely affected by Typhoon Rolly.
Thank you,
That
Mr.
is my
Chairman.
presentation, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sec. Pusi. We are also joined via Zoom by our Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary Dar. Sir, ano pong estimate ng damage natin sa ating mga pananim at anong tulong na maibibigay natin sa ating mga magsasaka na nasalanta ng Bagyong Rolly? The floor is yours, Secretary Dar.
Maraming salamat, Spokesari and colleagues of the Cabinet. Good morning again. Due to the early advisory of the Department of Agriculture and base it on the Pag-asa forecasts, a total of 242,000 hectares of rice have been saved from Regions 1, 2, 3, 4A, and 5, with an equivalent production of more than 1 million metric tons, amounting to 16.9 billion pesos. As for corn, a total of 11,000 hectares have been saved from Regions 1, 2, and 5, and 8, with an equivalent production of 45,703 metric tons, amounting to 579 million pesos. So ito po yung na-save. Now, going forward, the actions taken by the Department of Agriculture is in close coordination with concerned national government agencies, local government units, and other DRRM-related offices for the impact of Typhoon Rolly and available resources for interventions and assistance, as well as with water management-related agencies for flood risk monitoring and dam water release. Close monitoring have been done and continue to be done for validation of the agricultural damages and losses that may have been incurred in the sector. Now, let me mention that as of today, this morning, the initial estimated agricultural damages and losses is totaling 1.1 billion pesos, which has been brought about by Typhoon Rolly. Earlier, Typhoon Quinta brought damages to almost 2 billion pesos. And most of the commodities that have been badly damaged are rice, corn, high-value crops during this Typhoon Rolly, with almost 20,000 hectares, and about 20,000 farmers as well have been affected. And that's the leading us to 1.1 billion of total damages during this Typhoon Rolly. Now, what are the available interventions that we can give or pursue during the rehabilitation stage for those affected by Typhoons Quinta and Rolly? The Department of Agriculture assures affected farmers and fishers of the following available assistance. A total of 133,326 bags of rice seeds. This is for replanting. 17,545 bags of corn seeds, also for replanting. and 2,000 kilograms of assorted vegetables already positioned in the affected regions, particularly Bicol, Calabarzon, even Bimarupa areas, and some extent Siquijor and Northern Samar in the Visayas. Now, we are also readying drugs and biologics for livestock and poultry, and we will be also helping distribute small ruminants and native chickens to those affected by the typhoon. There is around 10 million pieces of tilapia and milkfish fingerlings, as well as fishing gears and paraphernalia that are ready for distribution. And we have still in our quick response fund amounting to 400 million pesos for rehabilitation of the affected areas in the various regions these last two typhoons. We also have survival and recovery loan program to be given at 25,000 per farmer that who is affected, or fishers who are affected, zero interest and payable in 10 years. And indemnification fund from Philippine Crop Insurance Corporation to pay for the losses incurred. And we have about 1 billion pesos for this. A farmer would get around 10 to 15,000 depending on the size and kind of agricultural commodities. We also have more than enough rice in the affected areas, and NFA operation centers are open 24 hours. So Mr. Spokesman and colleagues of the cabinet, tuloy-tuloy pa rin yung moving around, monitoring, and evaluation of the damages of our staff at the regional field offices po. Yun po ang latest galing sa kagawaran ng pagsasaka. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Secretary Dar. Kasama rin po natin ang Undersecretary ng DSWD, si Undersecretary Bugjongan. Sir, magkano na pong tulong ang naibigay natin sa mga kababayan nating nasalanta ng bagyo at ano pa pong aasahan tulong nila? The floor is yours, Yusek Bugjongan.
Maraming salamat po, Sec. Hari, sa ating chairperson of the NDRIMC at sa lahat ng mga cabinet members na nandito ngayon at iba pang mga guest. Isang magandang umaga sa lahat. Nais po nating magbahagi ng pinakahuling ulat hinggil sa isinasagawang pagbibigay tulong ng DSWD sa mga lokal na pamahalaan bilang first responder na naapektuhan ng Bagyong Rolly at matutulungan silang tugunan ang pangailangan ng kanilang nasasakupan. Sa field office car po, meron pong 106 na mga pamilya o 405 na individual mula sa 4 na barangay ang naapektuhan. Ngunit isa lang po ang nagpapasalamat po tayo at isa lang pong pamilya o 6 na katao ang in-evacuate, kailangang i-evacuate. Sa field office NCR po, kasalukuyang pinoproseso ng field office ang augmentation request ng munisipalidad ng Pateros. Na-monitor po natin doon sa NCR na may 3,160 na mga pamilya o 13,682 katao sa 89 na evacuation centers na na-evacuate through preemptive evacuation po. Sa field office number 1, kasama ang higit 80 volunteers, nagsasagawa ang field office ng repacking ng 5,000 family food packs doon po sa Biday Warehouse, City ng San Fernando, La Union. Ang food packs ay papamahagi bilang augmentation support sa mga lokal na pamahalaan sa rehiyon. Ang sa field office 2 naman po, abala rin ang DSWD field office 2 sa pag-repack ng family food packs upang masiguro na mayroong sapat na tulong na may paabot sa mga pamilya ng rehiyon kung kinakailangan. mayroong karagdagang 1,880 family food packs ang nahanda na, karagdagan sa 21,882 family food packs na stockpile ng field office. Mayroong 1,000 food packs ang ipinadala sa lalawigan ng Quirino noong Oktubre 31. Mayroon namang 2,000 family food packs na nakapreposisyon na sa satellite warehouse sa field office sa Cabarogis, Quirino, Bayumbong, Nueva Vizcaya at sa Ilagan City Social Welfare and Development Office. Na-monitor po sa FO2 ang pag-evacuate ng 66 katao mula sa 3 barangay through preemptive evacuation. Doon po sa field office number 3, patuloy rin ang repacking activities ng DSWD Field Office 3 sa regional warehouse nito para sa paghanda ng 2,750 family food packs. Ang field office ay nakipag-ugnayan sa DSWD National Resource Operation Center, yung ating warehouse dito sa Pasay, para sa pagpapadala ng karagdagang 2,300 na food packs sa regional warehouse nito at 1,700 food packs sa satellite warehouse sa ahensya sa Port Magsaysay. Ito po ay nagawa na natin the other day. Nakipag-ugnayan naman ang field office sa Office of the Civil Defense sa rehiyon para sa pagpapadala ng 1,000 food packs sa warehouse nito sa Aurora. Sa Field Office 4A naman po, nagpadala ang DSWD National Resource and Logistics Management Bureau ng 630 kasako na bigas o 31,500 kilos ng bigas papunta sa DSWD Field Office 4A warehouse doon sa Dasmariñas City. Ang bigas ay ireripak para makagawa ng karagdagang family food packs na ipapamahagi sa mga apektadong pamilya. Tinatayang 5,250 na food packs ang maaaring mayanda mula sa bigas na ipadala na. Ang affected po doon sa 4A as of 6 a.m. this morning, 8,004 na mga pamilya o 30,146 na mga individual mula sa 305 na mga barangays. 7,728 na mga pamilya or 29,093 individuals ang kasalukuyang nasa 376 evacuation centers ng Region 4A. Ang DSWD Field Office 4A ay patuloy ang pakikipag-ugnayan sa mga apektadong lokal na pamahalaan para sa pagbibigay ng kinaukulang tulong para sa mga apektadong pamilya at komunidad. Mayroong sapat na nakahandang family food packs at pundo ang field office. Sa kasalukuyan, mayroong nakaantabay na 6.5 milyong halaga ng family food packs, food items, hygiene kits at sleeping kits sa iba't ibang warehouse ng ahensya sa buong rehiyon. Sa Mimaropa po, may na-monitor tayo na affected na 6,697 na mga pamilya o 24,396 na individual mula sa 238 sa mga barangay ng rehiyon. Sa Field Office number 5 po, doon sa Bicol, aktibo pa rin ang provincial at municipal action teams ng Field Office ng 6 na probinsya sa rehiyon at mahigpit na nakipag-ugnayan sa provincial at municipal disaster risk reduction management offices para sa pagbibigay ng tulong o augmentation sa ating mga local government units. Sa kabuuan po, gusto ko pong iulat na nakapamahagi na ang DSWD ng family food packs at non-food items na nakakahalaga na higit 164,000 pesos sa probinsya ng Albay. Samantala, tayo po ay nagpapasalamat sa International Organization for Migration or IOM para sa kanilang donasyon na 500 modular tents na kanilang ipinahatid na maaari nating gamitin bilang temporary shelter ng mga apektadong pamilya. Today, we will be pushing forward more family food packs, although meron nang naka-stockpile doon sa area sa Catanduanes and Albay via C-295 of the Philippine Air Force. Tuloy-tuloy po ang pagbibigay ng DSWD ng maagap at mapagkalingang serbisyo, serbisyong may malasakit, serbisyong may puso. Maraming salamat po.
Salamat, Undersecretary Bujongan. Kahapon po, may na-report tayo si Joy sa Ginubatan, Albay, at nagpapasalamat mo kami sa DZRH dahil sila ay nag-forward ng information. So tanungin po natin kay PNP Chief Camilo Cascolan, ano pong nangyari doon sa bahay na natabunan sa Ginubatan at ano pa po yung mga search and rescue operation na kinundak ng ating kapulisan. Chief Cascolan, please.
Salamat po, Secretary Roque. Ako po ang Deputy Chief PNP for Operations, si Police Lieutenant General Binag, Cesar Binag. At ang ating pong hepe ngayon ay papunta po sa Bicol, kasama po ang aming staff para tignan din ang kalagayan ng ating search and rescue operation doon in support of our regional and local DRRMC. Nakausap ko yung regional director bago ako pumunta rito. At yun nga, ang una niyang ni-report muna, tinignan muna namin yung kung na-establish na lahat ng communication line, lalo na sa Catanduanes. Mr. Secretary, sa ngayon po na-establish na natin doon at na-report niya na 90% ng infrastructure, sir, ay damaged daw. Siyempre po, assessment lang po ito ng police. At yung number po ng casualty na ni-report po ng regional director namin ay sa ngayon ay 10 na. I hope mag-reconcile na lang po ng kung meron hong pagbabago. 4 dito sa Catanduanes, tapos 6 sa ibang lugar sa Bicol. Ang inyo pong PNP, meron kaming 4 na tinututukan na areas bilang inyong law enforcement. Una nga yung search and rescue operation. Sir, i-report ko na rin po. Pangalawa ito yung security ng ating mga evacuation center. Para masigurado natin na wala anumang mangyayari na masama doon at maproteksyonan yung ating mga evacuees. Sir, pangatlo, tinututukan din po namin yung mga vacated areas, sir, para walang looting na mangyari. Sinisigurado po natin yun. At syempre po yung ating regular law enforcement operation na baka meron pang magsamantala na kriminal. No? At ang PNP rin dahil meron kaming sariling command center, napakaganda source din ng information sa ating mga kababayan o sa ating pong ibang ahensya. Kasi ang police natin, nandoon sila sa regional, provincial, down sa municipality level. Kaya marami po kaming information na pwede actually pagkunan ng iba't ibang planning or decision-making process. Sir, tuloy-tuloy ko na lang po. Sa atin pong sa search and rescue, sir, nakapag-deploy po tayo kahit bago pa magsimula. 6,107 Tapos meron pa kaming standby na 17,000. Tapos meron pa tayong iba pa yung ating dito sa regional, iba pa sa national at iba-ibang region na atin tinatawag to na RSSF. Ito po yung ating pang standby force other than DISAR. Meron po kaming 38,000. In fact, pinag-utos ng aming hepe, meron ng 100 manggagaling sa Region 7, pupunta sa Region 5 para tulungan ang ating mga pulis sa Region 5, ma-reinforce sila. At may kasama itong mga food banks kung tawagin po namin. At mayroon din po kami manggagaling dito sa National Headquarters, ipapadala rin mga tao, mga ganun din ang numero para masigurado na matulungan po yung ating regional office doon in support of the regional DRRMC, saka po yung provincial and city and local. So, yun sa mga affected ang minomonitor namin, sir, in coordination siyempre ng ating DSWD, meron 15,464 na sinisecure po kami na evacuation centers. No? So, nireport ko nga kanina, so far wala naman masamang nangyari doon at sinisigurado po natin na ligtas lahat ang ating mga kababayan na nandoon po sa loob ng evacuation center. At binanggit ko rin kanina, sa lahat naman na-evacuate yung vacated areas, salamat naman at wala nga looting, ulitin ko, at kami nakikiusap naman. Sana naman sa ganitong klase ng panahon ay wag na nilang pagsamantalahan kung meron nag-iisip dyan doon sa mga lugar na binakante ng ating mga kababayan. No? Yun Tapos, sir, tinitingnan din po namin yung number of casualties nga, binanggit ko sa inyo, sa kay injured. We can also share this information, total number of road condition and possible, tapos flooded areas, etc. Pati yung communication, something that we can actually utilize ng ibang ahensya po. I know you have those numbers here, pero ay direkta sa aming mga hepe at sa aming mga provincial directors. So, Sir, ang isa rin ho namin binabantayan dahil marami rin ho kami may mga pulis din ho kaming naapektuhan. Kaya ho ang ginawa ng ating hepe, pinag-utos na siguraduhin na lahat ng pulis na matatamaan ng bagyo, pinauwi muna ho namin. No? Kaya ho kahit papano, with that kind of arrangement, meron ho mga pulis na o yung pamilya nila na kahit na naapektuhan ho, na pinagtutuunan din ho namin ng pansin. Doon naman ho sa ginubatan, sir, nandoon ho ang ating pulis sa report po ng ating regional director at talaga ho patuloy ho yung pagsuporta nila ho doon sa search and rescue kasama po yung army ng local at yun nga ho ang nai-report nga sa buong Bicol ay 10 ho yung namatay. So for sir, yun po yung pinagtutuunan namin bilang yung pulis sa panahon ng ganito hong kalamidad. Salamat po.
Maraming salamat, Deputy Director General Binag ng ating PNP. Kasama rin po natin, Lieutenant General Gilbert Gapay. Sir, ano pong report sa mga aktibidades ng Hukbong Sandatahan sa gitna ng Bagyong Rolly?
Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. With indulgence of the group, we have a brief presentation, sir, on updates on HADR operations of the Armed Forces of the Philippines.
Go ahead po.
So let me just provide the group on AP-HADR operations updates in connection with Super Typhoon Rolly. This is also included in our O-Plan Tulong Bayanihan. This is a contingency plan of the Armed Forces of the Philippines every time there would be disasters and calamities such as this one. So I'll be presenting the activities of the Armed Forces of the Philippines before, during, and of course the way forward as we continue our relief operations as an aftermath of Typhoon Rolly. So the scope of my presentation is as shown. So on pre-disaster activities, this was presented also yesterday, and let me just go through them briefly. We have activated the AP Disaster Response Task Force effective 30 October as part of our preparations, and our AP units participated in several pre-disaster assessment activities as well as emergency planning activities conducted by regional OCDs as well as the LGUs through their local DRMCs. And we have activated a total of 177 disaster response units under SOLCOM, JTF, NCR, NOLCOM, and Central Command of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. And this is composed of more than 4,000 regular forces. Please, next slide, please. Okay, so we have activated a total of 177 DRTUs in the affected areas of Typhoon Rolly, composed of more than 4,000 regular forces augmented by CAFGUs and reservists. And we ensure the readiness of these DRTUs through inspections prior to deployment. There are some pictures of the preparatory activities which AFP has undertaken. Likewise, we participated in planning activities in coordination with the LGUs and the local Dream Cs as well as the regional OCD. So next slide, please. Next slide. Yes, next slide, please. I can see. Okay. So these are the planning activities where our DRTUs participated in. Next. And of course, aside from the manpower and ground equipment, we have also on standby 6 aircraft, 2 transport aircraft, and 4 helicopters. This is aside from the 2 helicopters already deployed in Bicol region. And we have also naval assets. 4 naval assets, 2 heavy lift, and of course, we have logistic support vessels on standby for relief operations and transport missions. So during disaster, we have supported the preemptive evacuation of the following. Preventive evacuation some 1,500 barangays consisting of 71,000 families or 337,000 individuals. Next slide. And likewise, we have conducted search, rescue, and retrieval operations, wherein we have recovered 10 dead people, recovered 1 injured, and there's still 3 missing, which we are still looking for in coordination with local government units. All of these are in Bicol region. Next. And aside from that, we have also placed on standby additional disaster response units when needed. And as reported by Yusek Halad this morning, we have assisted in damage assessment, particularly in Catanduanes, and deployed an Army signal personnel to restore communications in Catanduanes, together with OCD-5 and PIA-5, on board 1 helicopter from the Philippine Air Force. Next. And we have also deployed additional medical teams to assist local medical health units affected by Typhoon Rolly. And of course, we have deployed several cargo trucks and ground mobility assets, to include ambulances and engineering equipment as shown. And our units also assisted in clearing operations. And here are some pictures of those operations in Barangay San Rafael in Castilla, Sorsogon, and of course in Batangas. And right now, in support to the other clusters, particularly on food and non-food cluster, we are assisting in repacking, and we're ready to transport the relief goods and food packs to the affected areas. And in support to the law and order cluster, our units are also assisting the PNP and LGU to maintain law and order in affected areas, so that nobody would take advantage of the situation. And in support to emergency telecommunications cluster, as I've reported earlier, we have dispatched 1 deployable signal team to Catanduanes to help restore communication in the province. And in support to the health cluster, we have also alerted medical teams from various AP hospitals, particularly in Bicol and southern Tagalog area. And I would also like to report we have conducted preemptive evacuation of COVID patients from quarantine facilities, particularly those from the Ninoy Aquino Stadium, the Rizal Memorial, as well as from our bagong Nayong Pilipino Insulaire. The tents insulaire were damaged, sir. And the COVID patients were initially evacuated to Nice and Sogo hotels as part of our preemptive measures. Next. And of course, in support of the logistics cluster, we're ready to transport relief goods, other logistics and supplies to affected areas by sea, air, and land transport. In fact, there are already cargo trucks ready for to roll out from Manila going to Albay to deliver the first batches of relief goods in the area. And before I end, let me just briefly outline our way forward. So, as the lead agency in search and rescue and retrieval operations, military units will continue to conduct SRR operations to retrieve other reported missing persons in affected areas. Likewise, we will continue to assist the OCD in their rapid damage assessment and needs assessment activities. And we will continue to assist restore communications in coordination with OCD and the LGUs. And we're ready to transport relief goods in coordination with DSWD, and additional engineering equipment are ready en route in the area to assist DPWH in the clearing of the roads and bridges affected by Typhoon Rolly. So those are the updates coming from your AAP. Thank you.
Maraming salamat, Chief of Staff Gilbert Gapay ng Hukbong Sangguniang ng Pilipinas. Kasama rin po natin dalawang gobernador ng dalawang probinsyang nasalanta. Nakikita ko na po sa screen ay si Governor Hernandez ng Laguna. Siya nga ba ho yun? Ay, Governor, kamusta na po sa Laguna at ano pong mga pangangailangan ng Laguna sa national government? The floor is yours, Governor. Floor is yours, Governor Hernandez.
Hello?
Okay po, the floor is yours.
Salamat po. As of this hour po, from 7,500 families na nasa evacuation centers po natin, ay meron na lang po tayong 6,000. At ini-encourage po natin sila na talagang mag-uwian dahil hindi po ganun ka-advisable na magtagal sa evacuation centers, gawa nga po ng ating COVID. And ang instruction ko po ay maibigay agad ang lahat po ng tulong doon po sa mga nasa evacuation centers. Kasi po meron po talaga dyan na ang mentalidad po ay hindi agad umuwi dahil mas napaprioritize na nabibigyan ng tulong yung nasa evacuation centers. Kaya ang ating pong utos doon po sa mga tao natin sa baba ay ibigay lahat ang mga tulong para po ma-encourage talaga yung mga tao na bumalik na sa kanilang mga bahay. At bukod po sa mga relief goods na pinamimigay po natin, ay nag-advise din po tayo na mamigay ng mga face shield at face mask dahil talagang hindi po dapat makalimutan na meron pa rin po tayong pandemya. At zero casualty naman po tayo. Salamat po sa Diyos. At sa ngayon po ay normal po yung flow ng lahat po ng sasakyan. Wala naman pong na-damage na mga kalsada maliban po sa isang tulay dito po sa Kalamba. At normal na rin po ang kuryente, power supply. At lahat po ay sa awa po ng Diyos ay maayos naman. At nagkapasalamat din po ako sa DSWD. Meron po kami natanggap na additional na 1,500 relief goods today. Sinama po namin yan sa pinamimigay po ngayon. At salamat din po sa Philippine Army dahil sila po yung mga katulong namin sa pag-distribute today ng ating po mga tauhan. So sa ngayon po, wala naman pong ganong kalaking masasabi na naging problema dito po sa Laguna. At hindi naman po tayo ganon talaga na direct hit. Maliban po talaga sa napakalaking abala dito sa ating po mga kalalawigan dahil sa preemptive evacuation po natin ay talagang naging active po tayo. Kaya umabot po tayo sa halos 30,000 individuals na nailagay doon sa mga evacuation centers. So maraming salamat po, sir.
Thank you, Governor Hernandez. Bago po tayo magpatuloy, meron lang pong clarification si Secretary Cusi. Sec.
Thank you, spokes. I just want to clarify based on the number that I gave on of the consumers without electricity. In the areas of Cavite, Quezon, Laguna, Rizal, Batangas, Bulacan, and Metro Manila, as of 6 a.m. this morning, it stands at 53,863. Kanina kasi nasabi ko 8,500, isang area lang yon. So the total areas of the affected area, but this excludes Catanduanes, ano po, dahil totally walang electricity sa area. Yun po ang gusto kong i-correction, Ms. Pokes. Salamat po.
Thank you for the clarification. Isa po sa probinsya na naglandfall ang Rolly ay ang Batangas. Kanina lang po ay naglandfall sa Lobo. We are joined also by Zoom ni Governor Dodo Mandana. Sir, kamusta po kayo dyan sa Batangas? Ano pong pangangailangan ninyo sa national government?
Magandang
Yours,
umaga, magandang tanghali sa ating lahat. Maganda na dito sa lalawigan ng Batangas sa ngayon. At gusto ko lamang masabi na talagang itinuturing namin na nagbunga ang panalangin dito sa lalawigan ng Batangas. Parang himala nung pumasok dito sa lalawigan ng Batangas ang Typhoon Rolly. Medyo humina at tumaas ang lakas ng hangin. Tumaas sa itaas. Dito sa baba, hindi masyado. Yun lang ulan ang tumuloy. Kaya maraming flooded areas dito sa kagabi. Dito sa Batangas City. Lalo na, ilang barangay. Subalit ngayon naman ay humupa na. At yung mga barangay na yon talagang lalo na yung Tierra Verde Subdivision at saka yung Mountain View ay talagang pag umuulan ng malakas, kahit hindi bagyo, ay binabaha. Pero humuhupa na. Noon, nag-rescue, katulong siyempre ang ating Batangas City at nandun din ang lalawigan, tulong-tulong, nagkakaisang local governments, mga 70 tao. So, hindi kapares nung Quinta. Ang Quinta, yun talaga ang napakalaki ng pinsala dito. Sa agrikultura lang, umaabot ng 1 bilyon. At sa ating mga transport system, dahil itong ating Port of Batangas, ito pagka normal ang panahon, dito 3 beses hanggang 4 na beses ang dami ng mga pasahero kung ikukumpara sa Port of Manila, sa North Harbor. Hindi lang papunta sa Mimaropa, kundi papunta sa Visayas and Mindanao. Ito ang simula ng... kaya dito, nung Quinta, umabot ng 1,600 ang stranded na hindi lang passengers, maraming cargo. At ito simula pa ng gabi, nung 26, wala 27 tumama yung Quinta, inilagay na sa masasabi nating safe haven yung mga roll-on, roll-off at mga shuttle. Pero ganun pa man, 12 ang aground at meron pang isang sasakyan, yate equivalent, motorized vessel ng Keppel ang lumubog na may siyam na mga tripulante. At doon kami nagkaroon ng casualty sa Quinta. Dito sa Rolly, meron kami ngayong isa lang ang missing doon sa ibaan namin dahil parang naglilinis ng kanilang drainage ay nahulog sa culvert. Missing pa hanggang ngayon. Dito ang Coast Guard, pinamumunuan ni Captain Tuvilla, ang napakalaki ng tulong Hindi lamang ngayon sa Rolly, kundi lalong-lalo na dito sa ating doon sa Quinta. Doon siguro may halos 100 bangka, hindi lamang sa mga isda, pati yung mga tourism boats sa Anilao, Mabini, at sa San Juan, sa Laia, at ganun din sa Lubok, kung saan naglandfall ang Rolly. Napakaraming bangka. At meron din mga napadpad na mga mangingisda hanggang at sa tulong ng Coast Guard ay na-rescue galing pa sa Lubang, Mindoro at Abra de Ilog, yung mga taga-Mabini at yung mga taga-Balaya naman. So mas malaki ang talagang damage dito ng Quinta kesa sa Rolly. Sa totoo lang, ngayon sa aming response operation, yung mga nakahalang na punong kahoy sa mga national roads, pati na sa mga local government roads, inaalis pa dahil hindi naalis at dumating ang Rolly. At papuntang from Batangas City, papuntang Lubo, sa Barangay de La Paz, malapit dito doon sa Monte Maria, malapit sa Ilihan Power Plant. At napapag-usapan ang power plant, gusto ko lamang ipalaala na nagpapasalamat kami ng lubos sa ating Department Secretary of Energy, Secretary Cusi, Secretary Al Cusi. Maraming salamat dahil alam natin na ang paghahanda ang tunay na sagot sa sakuna. Paghahanda sa dasal, paghahanda. Pero si Secretary Cusi, talagang noon pa, bago pa pumutok ang bulkan, talagang, at nung pumasok ang COVID, talagang ginamit ang masasabi natin na tunay na magaling mag-isip para sa kapakanan. Dahil yung aming energy fund ay ipinagamit. Itong energy fund, kuminsan bago makuha ng mga communities na pinagtatayuan ng mga power plants, umaabot ng 3 hanggang 5 taon. Pero sa panahon ni Secretary Cusi, kaagad ay pinalabas, hindi na pinatatagal, diretsyo na. Talagang yung devolution ay ginawa niya. Kaya sa kanyang pamamaraan, ang lalawigan ng Batangas nakapaghanda dahil kami ngayon 4 ang aming binibigyan ng response and recovery. 4 na calamities. Ito lang taong ito. Bukod pa yung nangyari nung nakaraang taong mga lindol. Pero itong taong ito, una, alam na lahat, tinamaan kami ng pagputok ng Bulkang Taal. Hanggang ngayon, konti pa lang ang naaayos doon. Kaya state of calamity pa rin kami dahil doon. Dahil kaya naantala siguro ang mga DPWH dahil na rin pumasok ang COVID at iba pa. Pero ang Department of Social Welfare, masasabi ko, simula pa noon, unang araw pa lamang, January 12, pumutok ang bulkan, si General Rolly Bautista, nandun, on site. At kaagad dumating ang tulong nang galing sa DSWD. Ganun din, siyempre hanggang ngayon, ang armed forces natin, dahil sila katulong din sa peace and order sa pagbabantay sa ating mga power plants. Dahil ang Batangas, ito ang lalawigan na pinakamalaki ang power generation. Mahigit na 5,200 megawatts. Ang Metro Manila, ang konsumo ng Metro Manila, buong Metro Manila na, ay 4,900 lang ang regular consumption. Kaya ito'y binabantayan, kaya wala namang nangyari. Nung pumutok ang bulkan at COVID, tuloy pa rin, at Quinta, Rolly, gusto ko maganda ang patakbo. malaramdaman nyo ito pag nag-blackout ang Metro Manila o 30% ng Luzon.
Okay.
Dito sa amin sa Calabarzon, dahil ako rin ang Regional Development Chairman, 60% ng buong Pilipinas dito. Kaya pag may calamity, sabi ko nga kapares ng ginawa ni Secretary Cusi, ni Al Cusi,
Governor, nagiging choppy na po kayo, Governor. Governor, choppy na po, but thank you very much. We'll go back to you pag naayos po ang linya. No? Meanwhile, meron po tayong updates from Pag-asa. Pag-asa, please come in. Wala kang audio, Mr. Pag-asa.
Hello, good morning.
Go ahead, narinig ka na namin. Go ahead.
Ito po. Update lamang po dito sa bagyong binabantayan natin ngayon, si Tropical Storm Rolly at Tropical Storm Sioni. Sa ngayon po, as of this time, si Tropical Storm Rolly nandito na po siya sa may West Philippine Sea at inaasahan po natin bukas lalabas na ito ng ating Philippine Area of Responsibility. Papalayo na po ito sa atin. Samantalang si Tropical Storm Sioni naman, ito po papalapit naman po dito sa atin at ang direction po ng kanyang movement ay pa west-northwest. Medyo may kabilisan po siya sa ngayon, 30 km per hour. So ito po yung track ni Tropical Storm Rolly at naasahan nga po natin na bukas labas na ito ng PAR. At sa ngayon po, as of 11 a.m. Severe Weather Bulletin, wala na po tayo nakataas na tropical cyclone warning signal, tinanggal na po lahat. At para naman po dito sa Tropical Storm Sioni, naasahan po natin na ito po yung kanyang forecast track, naasahan po natin na lalapit siya dito sa may Northern Luzon, araw po yan ng Friday. Ano po yung naasahan natin dito? Maaari po tayong mag-raise ng Tropical Cyclone Warning Signal number 1, araw po ng Webes, dito po sa ilang lugar ng Cagayan Valley Region. At posible po na mag-landfall siya ng Severe Tropical Storm Category o 89 hanggang 117 po ang lakas ng hangin yan. Nasa signal number 2 po ang pwedeng maranasan dyan. Possible exit PAR po yan, Sabado po, November 7. At yan lamang po ang update natin sa dalawang bagyo, si Rolly at si Sioni. Maraming salamat po.
Maraming salamat po sa ating weather update galing sa Pag-asa. Nasa linya po natin ngayon si Mayor Gemma ng Ginubatan, Albay, isa sa pinakamatinding hinagupit ng Bagyong Rolly. Mayor, are you on the line?
Hello, yes. Good morning po.
Opo, kamusta na po kayo dyan sa Ginubatan at ano pong maitutulong ng iba't ibang departamento dito sa Maynila? Go ahead, please. The floor is yours.
Okay. Sa ngayon po, Secretary, ang kailangan po ng constituents namin is food po. And yung matutuluyan po nila. And syempre po, kailangan din po namin ng yung hello. Hello.
Narinig po namin. Go ahead.
Apo. And sir, yung kailangan po namin yung malilipatan po sana nila po.
Nandito po si DSWD Undersecretary Bujongan, sir. Kailangan daw po ng food packs sa Ginubatan.
Yeah, noted po, Sec. Parating na po yung ating family food packs doon sa area.
Maraming salamat
Opo.
po, no? Okay, Mayor.
Opo.
Anyway, nandito pa po tayo, pero pupunta muna tayo sa ating open forum. Again, this is a special presidential press briefing. So kasama po natin ang men and women of the Malacanang Press Corps. At dahil nasa NDRMMC tayo, kasama rin natin ang Defense Press Corps. Unang magtatanong muna po, Yusek Rocky. Questions from the Malacanang Press Corps? Wala kang audio, Yusek Rocky.
Opo. Hello?
Go ahead.
Okay na? Opo. Good morning, Secretary Roque at sa ating pong iba pang opisyal ng pamahalaan. Ang tanong po mula kay Rosalie Cos, Ano po ang assessment ng national government sa ginawang paghahanda ng mga lokal na pamahalaan sa Metro Manila bagamat hindi po masyadong naapektuhan ang Kapitolyo gaya ng inaasahan?
Well, tingin ko po ang paningin ng Presidente, he would like to commend all local government units, all departments and agencies of government dahil napakita naman po natin na dahil sa ating kahandaan, nabawasan po natin yung aberya. Gaya ng sinabi ni Secretary Anyo kanina, the goal should be zero casualty, pero dahil tingin ko naman po, nag-evacuate ang mga tao, nagkaroon ng forced evacuation, nabawasan po talaga ang ating casualties sa bagyong ito. Sa susunod po, we will still aim for zero casualty, so we still ask for the continuing cooperation of our people. But thank you very much to all the men and women comprising the agencies and instrumentalities of the Philippine government, including the local government units and the public in general po.
Second question po niya, kumusta naman po ang monitoring ninyo sa ginawang aksyon ng mga lokal na pamahalaan sa mga pinakamatindi ang epekto ng Bagyong Rolly? Sa tingin niyo po ba ay nasunod nila ang protocols na ibinaba ng NDRRMC kaugnay ng Disaster Preparedness at Response? Bakit po oo at bakit po hindi? Nakaapekto po ba sa dapat nilang gawing preparations ang COVID-19 pandemic at saan pong aspeto sila dapat mag-adjust o mag-improve pa?
Secretary Anyo?
Salamat. No? Una-una, maganda ang performance ng ating LGUs. No? As early as October 30, nagsisimula na tayo ng forced evacuation. In fact, kahit sa lugar na kung saan lumihis ang bagyo, katulad ng NCR, ay tuloy ang kanilang evacuation. In fact, nandun pa sa kanilang evacuation centers yung iba. Kasi nakakasan yung pagkain eh. So, ipapakain na rin natin to. Siguro bukas pa makakabalik yan. Ano? Ito naman ay through Operation Listo protocols, alam na kagad ng ating mga LGUs ang gagawin bago dumating ang anumang typhoon or disaster. Lalo na yung pagde-designate at pag-activate ng kanilang operation center, ang pagtatalaga ng mga search and rescue teams, at ang pag-aayos ng mga evacuation centers at pag-evacuate. Ang isang nakita namin na dapat i-improve natin dito ay ang communication system. Katulad ng naganap sa Catanduanes, na sa ngayon ay may problema tayo sa communication. So, yan ang i-improve natin kung paano tayo magkakaroon ng tuloy-tuloy na communication kahit na wala na ang halimbawa ang telephone signal, meron pa rin dapat no ang radio communication ay isa sa dapat nating i-revive no bukod sa satellite communication.
Secretary Anyo, siguro po pwedeng padala natin ng satellite telephone si Governor Kua para makontak natin siya. Okay, sige. Oo. Pwede ko kaya natin subukang kontakin ngayon si Governor Kua para dito sa ating press briefing via satellite phone. Subukan po natin kontakin si tapos si Yusek Halad po.
Yes, sir. Actually, meron nang na-deploy doon na kanina. May dala-dala yung team na pumunta doon. May dalang satellite phone, kailang still. Nahirapan silang magkaroon ng contact with OCD Region 5 in Legazpi City. Siguro dahil sa makapal yung cloud cover, hindi makapenetrate. But on the way to Birak now is the BN Islander of the Philippine Coast Guard. Merong dala-dalang equipment yon na satellite communication with strong cloud penetration capability. So pagdating noon, baka sakaling maka-establish tayo ng contact.
Sana po makontak natin si Governor Kua habang tayo po ay nagpe-press briefing. Next question, Yusek.
Question from Jam Punsala ng ABS-CBN. Why was the briefing held only yesterday after Rolly's first two landfalls, and why did the President fail to join even just through teleconferencing?
Unang-una po, hindi ko alam kung ano yung unang tanong, why was? Ano yung unang tanong?
Why was the typhoon briefing held only yesterday?
Well, dahil inaasahan po nga natin yung landfall kahapon, no? At saka sa totoo lang po, araw ng linggo naman yon, Pero miski araw ng linggo po, nandito po lahat yung kalihim para nga po iparating ang kahandaan ng gobyerno sa pagbibigay ng tulong doon sa mga nasalanta ng NDRMMC. So ang tanong po, bakit lang kahapon? Kasi kahapon naman po pumasok yung bagyo, no? At bago po yan, patuloy naman po ang briefing na ginagawa ng NDRMMC. Ako po'y nakatutok doon sa mga briefing na ginagawa ni Yusek Halad para sa kahandaan bago pa po tumama ang bagyo. Now, ang tanong na pangalawa po ay ating presidente, we were all informed po sa cabinet na kinakailangan mag-PCR test. Preparatory usually po yan to meeting the president. So, ang sabi po sa akin ni Senator Bongo, depending on whether or not they can fly back to Manila, baka nga po mag-address ang Pangulo sa taong bayan mamayang hapon muli. No? Pero si Secretary Duque arranged na po PCR test dito na po sa NDRMMC, and thank you very much, Secretary Duque. But then again, we will have to wait for confirmation dahil depende po yan whether or not authorities will allow the planes, the President's plane to take off for Manila. Next question, please.
Before its franchise rejection, ABS-CBN's disaster coverage included updates from regional reporters, experts' opinions, and donation drives. With another storm coming, how is the government augmenting the info gap in far-flung areas that have lost access to the coverage?
Sa tingin ko po, nagbibigay pugay po tayo sa lalong-lalo na sa mga PTV reporters, sa PIA. Gumagana po yung communication infrastructure ng gobyerno sa panahon ng aberya. So sa tingin ko po, wala namang vacuum at nandyan din po ang ating mga pribadong news agencies, nandyan po ang TV5, nandyan po ang GMA7, at nandyan po yung mga matatapang at magagaling, masisipag na reporters ng radyo. So sa tingin ko naman po, wala pong nagkaroon ng communication vacuum.
Ang third question niya, Malacanang said last week it would ask President Duterte if he's willing to release his SALN despite ombudsman restrictions. Any update on this?
Tsaka na po natin pag-usapan niya, dito muna tayo sa bagyo. Okay. Lipat naman tayo sa defense reporters.
Yes.
Dire-diretso na muna. Go ahead.
Yes, Secretary, salamat po. From PTV, for DA daw po, immediate need ang mechanical dryer. Nagsasamantala ang mga traders. Bumenta ang palay as low as 6 to 7 pesos. 16 and 18 pesos yan kapag tag-araw. Ngayon tag-ulan, swerte na kung kukuhanin ng 11, 12 pesos.
Saan po yan? Saan area yan, Yusek Rocky?
Secretary, hindi po nabanggit dito.
Secretary Dar, meron ba ho tayong mga mobile drying facilities na pwedeng mapadala? Secretary Dar? Nasa linya pa ba si Secretary Dar? Okay, next question. Pararating po natin kay Secretary Dar yung pangangailangan ng mga drying facilities dito sa mga lugar na nasalanta ng bagyo. Next question, please.
Yung next question niya, nabanggit niyo na, sir, para dun sa gagawin yung aksyon para makontak ang Bato Catanduanes. Ang susunod pong tanong ay mula kay Joseph Morong para sa NDRMC. Katulad din po niyan, ano daw po nangyari sa Catanduanes? Meron na po ba daw report na extent or damage? Bakit daw po walang communications ang NDRMC at hindi daw po nalatagan? At kung may, nasagot nyo na rin po na may public address mamaya si Pangulong Duterte.
Secretary Lorenzana?
Yeah, meron namang naibigay ng satellite phone kay Governor Kua, pero sa anong kadahilanan ay hindi makontak siya. Anyway, meron tayong Coast Guard doon na papunta ngayon na pagka nakarating doon, magkakaroon tayo ng efficient communication at malalaman na natin kung ano talaga ang mga pinsalang nangyari sa Catanduanes.
Secretary Anyo and then Yusek Halad, please.
Yes, nagkaroon na tayo ng contact doon through sa Provincial Director ng Philippine National Police. At initially ay sinasabi niya na mayroong 4 na casualties. At kasalukuyan ina-assess nila yung damage kasi hindi natin malaman yung extent pero almost 90% daw sa infra ay may mga na-damage doon. So we'll get more reports pagka ma-establish natin yung secure communication. At nandun na rin naman yung ating military, PNP, at saka Coast Guard. So, konting tiis na lang at makukuha natin yung buong picture ng Catanduanes.
Yes.
Yusek Halad.
Yes, sir. Gusto ko lang i-emphasize na yung system of disaster management operation naman natin ay in place na and expected. Hindi naman yung mangunguna yung National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council dahil capacitated naman yung ating mga local government units, sila yung first responder. And base dito sa effect na nakikita natin ng ni Super Typhoon Rolly, unang tumama siya as a super typhoon, ay functioning naman yung ating mga local government units. So there's no collapse of local governance, no missing local chief executive, all accounted sila even before nung bago dumating ang si Super Typhoon Rolly. There's also no breakdown of law and order. The PNP is seeing to it ng gano'n, So yung mga talaga, yung functioning yung ating mga Regional Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. And yung mga request ng ating mga mayors can be channeled doon sa regional directors natin, regional directors ng DSWD, regional directors ng PNP, ng OCD at sa lahat na. So dapat hindi mangamba yung ating mga kababayan bakit hindi nila nakikita si Presidente because he has that luxury. The government is functioning from the local government unit up to the national level.
Next question, please.
Question, follow-up po para kay Secretary Anyo ni Celerina Monte. Underscored daw po the need for good communication like radio, especially during the time of disaster. Don't you think communication could have been better if ABS-CBN franchise was granted by Congress?
Well, gaya ng sinabi ko po, yung yung radyo pong komunikasyon, yan po yung two-way radio na tinatawag, o radio network, bukod po yan sa ABS-CBN.
Question, Secretary, from Trish Tarada ng CNN Philippines. May plano po ba si President Duterte to visit typhoon-stricken areas?
Depende nga po kung paliliparin ng ating presidente, gusto po niya mag-aerial investigation at the very minimum, Pero gaya ng sinabi ko po, binigyan na kami ng abiso, kinakailangan mag-PCR test na, and that's usually preparatory to his report to the nation.
Opo, may schedule na po ba ng next meeting ni PRD with IATF?
Yung IATF po, well, inaasahan po natin na mamaya po merong ulat sa bayan ng Pangulo, pero ang susunod pong IATF meeting with the President is Thursday evening.
Opo. Question from Joseph Morong. Secretary, saan daw po yung area ng mga tao na missing pa rin na nireport po ni Secretary Anyo? At sa NDRRMC, ano daw po ang government assessment? Aling areas daw po ang hardest hit? From Joseph Morong.
Sec Anyo and Yusek Harad, please.
Ito ay sa area pa rin ng Albay, sa Ginubatan Albay, kung saan nagkaroon ng flash flooding doon. Yan ay ayon din sa ugnayan namin ni Governor Al Francis Bichara. Ang hardest hit natin, yung mga kung saan talaga tumama yung landfall, unang-una sa Bato, Catanduanes, sumunod ay ang Albay, naglandfall sa TV Albay. Pagdating naman sa Narciso, Quezon at Batangas, Lobo, Batangas ay medyo humina na yung hangin. So talaga expected natin ang hardest hit ay ang Catanduanes.
Yusek Halad?
Yeah, I agree, and itong Bicol area or at least two provinces ng Bicol area ang maaaring hardest hit, itong Catanduanes, una-una, at saka Albay. At based on unofficial information, malawak ang damage sa agriculture at marami ring bahay ang nasira. Yun mainly ang karamihang sira. Plus of course, some doon sa ating roads and bridges. So sa ngayon, ang effort naman natin is responding to the effects, providing assistance to the victims of the disaster.
Next question, please. Wala kang audio, Yusek.
From Henry Uri ng DCRH, matapos daw po makita ng Pangulo ang pinsala ng bagyo, ano na po ang kanyang mga salitang nabanggit? May mensahe po ba ang mga Pangulo, lalo na sa pamilya ng mga biktima?
Antayin na lang po natin mamaya, no?
Opo. Okay, yung second question po niya, nasagot na po ni Secretary Anyo at ni Yusek Halad. Ganon din po yung tanong ni Pia Ranyada, yung update ko nasaan ang Pangulo, nabanggit niyo na po Secretary Roque. And the question from Angel Ronquillo, ano po ang masasabi niyo sa trending na hashtag nasaan ang Pangulo nung nananalasa po ang Bagyong Rolly?
Well, bagamat ang Pangulo po ay nasa Davao, lahat po ng ahensya ng gobyerno ay nasa red alert. Kami po ay nag-press briefing dito sa Camp Aguinaldo ng araw ng Linggo at gumagana po ang gobyerno.
Meron lang pong clarification si Joseph Morong, 4 po ba daw ang casualties? Kasi isa lang po ang sabi ng PNP.
Secretary Anyo, please.
Yan ay base sa report ng ating Provincial Director ng Catanduanes. Lahat naman yan ay makukonfirm later on. No? Pag nagkausap-usap na at nagkapag-validate sila ng lahat ng information. Itong mga report natin, initially lang to as they come. We will validate and give the exact picture later on pag nakapag-validate yung iba't ibang ahensya.
Opo. Follow up lang, Secretary, from Laila Salaveria na Inquirer, bakit hindi na po required ang COVID-19 test for responders? Hindi po ba ito makakataas ng risk ng pagkalat ng infection kapag hindi na sila i-test?
Secretary Duque.
Gaya po ng akin binanggit kanina, binigyan din po natin na kapag wala naman history of exposure sa confirmed COVID-19 patient or history of travel, ay hindi na po kinakailangan. So, makakasiguro po tayo na hindi po ito magiging sanhi ng pagkalat ng COVID-19 cases or infection. Bagkus kinakailangan ang pagpapaigting ng minimum health standards compliance.